Hello, this is Spartan Commander, and this is the 123rd Rome Total War Brotherhood game that I've put onto YouTube. Just before I introduce the teams, I would just like to say that there is a Heavens Clans member, an RTW Heavens Clans member called Coda, who has asked me to tell everybody that he thinks he is the biggest fan of our Brotherhood YouTube battle channel. So Coda thinks he's the biggest fan of our battle channel there. Thanks very much for that, Coda. The team I'm in today consists of Brotherhood member Steve Longshanks, who has bought the Rome Julii faction. And then we have Brotherhood member Killer B. He's still using that ancient RTW clan Elites on the front of his name. Remember, that's a clan right back from the beginning of RTW that I think he's trying to keep their name alive by putting it onto his name. But it is Brotherhood member Killer B. And then we have myself, Spartan Commander, who's bought an experimental Carthage army for this battle. So I'll be interested to see how well this army does. It's kind of a mixture of a very old army that I used years and years ago, and I've kind of tweaked it a little bit to see how well it'd do in the modern era. So there's our team there, full of experience. This should be a really great battle for you to watch. And here is the other team. We have RTW player Scorpion King SR, who's called himself Nitrogen in this game, and he's bought the Armenian faction. I'm sure a lot of you would be very surprised to see Armenia on the 31k battlefield, but that's what Scorpion King SR has bought for this battle. The next enemy team member is King's Marcus. He's a very experienced RTW player. King's Marcus has bought the Rome Scipio faction. And then we have Greeks clansman Greeks Leonidas. As you might know, the Greeks' mission on RTW was to be the best clan with the Pike factions, and fair play to them. For hours and hours and hours they used to practice, and I think most RTW players would agree that they did become the best clan with Pikes on RTW. And whenever you see a Greeks clansman with Greek cities, you know you're in for a big challenge. As you know, the Spartans have got 2 hit points, excellent morale, and are extremely tough infantry. So when you see a Greeks clansman with Greek cities, you know that there's probably going to be a bit of trouble ahead. So there's the other team, a really great team, and I hope you enjoy this brilliant battle. I thought at this stage of the battle, as I don't think we've ever seen Armenia on the 31k battlefields on one of my YouTube battles before, so I thought we'd have a look at some of their units. Here you can see their cataphract horse archers here, very well armoured, and they're quite a powerful archer unit, those HAs. And then we have the Armenian cataphracts. Now if you look at, can you see the banners above the cataphracts to tell you what their upgrades are? If you see, they've got 9 banners, which means they're fully upgraded. So that's 3 stripes, gold attack and gold defense. So these cataphract cavalry are not to be messed with, are very tough. So Scorpion King's really upgraded his cavalry there. And then we have the foot archers here. The Armenian archers are not that brilliant. They haven't got a long range, and their defense is not very good. But if you bring a lot of them, then they can be quite devastating. And I think he's got about 8 or 9 of them. And then we have the spearmen, the heavy spearmen of the Armenian units there, Armenian army there. And I think from what I saw, the upgrades there, they're pretty well fully upgraded as well. So that's one thing about bringing Armenia to the 31k battlefield. You can certainly upgrade the units, and it should be interesting to see what these almost fully upgraded units would do on the 31k battlefield against Rome. At this very early stage of the battle, you can see that Scorpion King has brought his HAs, horse archer unit, around the rear of Steve's army there, and they're firing arrows into the rear of his cavalry. If you notice the dead on the battlefield there, you can see that those HAs have certainly killed a few of Steve Longshank's cavalry there. If you notice, there's a heck of a lot of Armenian archers, foot archers there. And if you notice that Steve's put a lot of his units into testudo. Remember what we've talked about in other battle videos that you've seen of mine, that testudo, when you put units into testudo, they put the shields all around the infantry, and they're a very good defense against missile. As you can see in the background, can you see that Killer is chasing off that HA unit there with his cavalry in a wide formation? He's put his cavalry in a wide formation to chase that horse archer unit away from the rear. As I say, you can see that Steve has got a lot of his units in testudo there to protect against the amount of arrows that are coming in onto his units there. As I say, it's so unusual to see Armenia on the 31k battlefield. I thought this is quite an unusual battle to show you here, and it'll be interesting to see how well they do. As you know, Scorpion King SR is a very experienced RTW player, and I think he's been playing RTW like myself right from the very first day it's come out. So I think you'll need all his experience on this battlefield, though, controlling Armenia against Roman armies. If you notice that King's Marcus is general, there's a cavalry general. As I said before in other battle videos of mine, old school. Remember, we used to bring cavalry generals up to about 8 years ago. It was about a normal thing that we used to do as Roman generals before we made our generals infantry units. But I see Marcus is using the old school cavalry general there. If you notice, he uses it for hit and run. The cavalry general is so hard to kill that he charges it in, does damage, and pulls back out. Here's an overall picture of the battlefield there. We go over to the left flank where my units are facing the Greek cities. My Carthage army is facing the Greek cities. As you see, our ally there, our Julii ally, are killing a lot of the Greek city archers there with his cavalry. So there we have the Greek cities facing my Carthage army there. As you can see, Killer in the centre here with his Julii army are facing the enemy Scipii infantry. And Steve over on the right flank here is facing the Armenians. Now this unit on the far right flank of Steve looks very vulnerable to cavalry hit here. If you notice that the the Armenian archers are firing fire arrows into that unit, it's going to lower its morale. So its morale's lowered, and then bang! Can you see how he's charging his cavalry units in? Those fully upgraded cataphract cavalry. See the impact? As that last one comes in for the rear, I bet it routs that other Julii unit there. Can you see the impact of those fully upgraded Armenian cataphract cavalry? Did a heck of a lot of damage there to Steve's end units. Meanwhile, over on our left flank, can you see the enemy Greek cities have tried to drive a wedge between my army and my Julii ally there. Now, if my Julii ally is quick, he could move his army over and get him behind the Greek cities, and maybe charge some units into the rear of those pikemen as I'm attacking the front with my Carthage Sacred Band pikemen. Meanwhile, over on the right here, you can see Steve is in a fierce battle with the Armenian infantry and cavalry there. I think probably a lot of us who maybe have not used Armenia before will be thinking, well, you know, Rome against Armenia, you know, shouldn't be much of a competition. Rome should really, should really actually smash Armenia because the units are not maybe not that strong. But if you notice here, Armenia is giving a really good account of itself against Rome. If you notice how Scorpion King's using his experience and getting his troops behind Steve's infantry there, and can you see that the enemy Scipio cavalry have just charged into the rear of Steve's engaged troops, routing a heck of a lot of Steve's army there on our right flank. I'm just going to pause the game here for us to take stock of the situation. So as you can see, our right flank basically now has, after a really good battle on that right flank, is basically been taken. Our right flank is basically non-existent now. Killer's still holding the centre there. And over on our left flank here, you can see that I'm trying to attack the Greek cities there with my Carthage Sacred Band. And if you notice that Killer's attacking the rear of the Greek cities as well there. This is going to be a fierce fight between the elite Spartan troops and my well-upgraded experimental Sacred Band units there. As you can see, it's it's a pretty touch and go battle there, I think, between my Carthage army and the Spartan army there. So it'll be interesting to see how that pans out. And as you can see at the back of the, if you like, of the Greek City's army, you can see that he's got Spartan units there combating Killers, Julii units that he was trying to bring in to attack the rear of the Greek City army there. So there's an overall picture of the battlefield there. As you can see, we've lost our right flank after a fierce battle, and it's not looking so good for our team at the moment. So it'll be interesting to see what happens here. And I bet a lot of people watching this very surprised on how well Armenia is doing here. You've got to remember that Armenia, used properly with a good, experienced RTW general, can be quite an effective army, as I'm sure you're seeing here at the moment. So I think it's going to be very interesting to see how this battle ends up, because I think it's very touch and go at the moment. Here, back to the left flank here, you can see my Carthage Sacred Band is still in a very intense battle with the Greek Spartans there. As you can see, Killer's bringing his army back from the centre now to the over to the left flank where my Carthage Sacred Band are fighting. You notice there he's charging his cavalry. And the impact of that cavalry charge into the engaged Greek city units there has caused a lot of them to rout. That was a nice little cavalry charge there by Killer there. As you can see, a lot of the Greek city units are starting to rout now. But if you notice, a lot of the victorious Armenian troops are coming over from our right flank over now, and you can see that King's Marcus with his Scipii units are now attacking us as well. If you notice that Killer, knowing that the weakness in my pikes are the rear and the flanks, if you notice that he's trying to cover the rear and the flanks with his infantry to protect my my infantry as I'm fighting forward into the enemy Greek cities and into the enemy Scipii units there. If you notice, there's several of Killer's Julii units starting to rout now as the enemy are closing in. Can you see how many enemy Scipii troops there are attacking us? And if you notice that the victorious Armenian troops are coming in from our right flank as well. This is certainly a very touch and go battle here. I think we just managed to kill the Armenian general there. So Armenia's morale is not very good anyway, so to have killed the general is a good thing for us. Right, I'm just going to pause the game here so we can take stock of the situation. As you can see, I think Scorpion King's bought about 9, maybe 8 or 9 archer units that he's firing fire arrows into our units. And of course, as you know, fire arrows lower morale. They cause casualties, but they lower morale as well. So with 9 units in close order of archers firing fire arrows into our units, is causing a lot of our morale to be sapped, if you like. So, and then with all our units basically engaged, plus those fire archers lowering our morale, things are not looking very good for our team at the moment. I'd just like to say really well done to Killer B here. He's really covering my flanks and rear with his infantry, knowing that that's their weak spots, and he's covering that against enemy attacks, allowing me to be able to engage the enemy in front of me. New players watching this, remember, if you're fighting with a pike ally, cover your pike allies' rear and flanks, as you can see Killer's doing here. I always think when you watch pike units advancing in mass, they do remind me of, like I've said before, I think like a slow moving steamroller. Very slow moving, but in a big group like that, they kind of roll over things that are in front of them, enemy troops are in front of them. And that's what I'm trying to do with these Sacred Band pikemen of mine. If you notice that Marcus has moved units in behind some of my Carthage Sacred Band to attack them from the rear. A nice tactical move there by Marcus. As I say, Killer's trying his best to cover my rear. I've noticed that a lot of Killer's Julio units have been routed now. So it'll be interesting to see what the outcome of this battle is going to be here, because I see that with all those fire arrows coming in on us, as I've said before, our morale is being lowered all the time. You can see the enemy Scipii generals there is trying to move units around the rear. Can you see the Scipii units moving around the flank, probably with a view to crashing in behind my engaged units there. See, Killer spotted the danger of those enemy Scipio troops coming in behind my infantry, and he's moved some of his battle damaged units over to try and counter the attack on my on the rear and flank of my Sacred Band troops. As I said before, you cannot underestimate the amount of morale that we're losing from that amount of fire arrows coming into us. If this gets down to the last couple of units on both sides, those fire arrows would definitely make the difference. You see, Greeks Leonidas is actually got his archers in the attack as well. He's using them to attack. So they're actually it's basically all the units that they've got there are now basically trying to come in on us from all different angles here. I've got my Carthage Sacred Band units facing the enemy in all directions here, trying to stop them from obviously hitting my flank or rear. It's a lot of, when you're a pike general, you have to do a lot of what they call micromanagement, and that's where you have to move. Well, obviously with any army you have to do micromanagement, but I think with pikes you have to be even more careful with your micromanagement to cover your flanks and rear all the time. As you can see, my Balearic slingers here have been firing their slingshots into the enemy all battle. If you notice now, I've got them in close formation, because at this stage of the battle I think they could do a lot of damage in close formation rather than being in open order. As you can see now, there's a lot of final battles going on at the moment here by the looks of it. The little battles, but somehow we've managed to, from losing our right flank after a really fierce battle there, we've managed to seem to have turned things around here. And as you can see, there's just some it's mostly just enemy archer units that are left now. So if you notice, I've upped my spears and are now running my pike units at those archer units. New players watching this, you may well know, or you may not know, that if you actually up the pikes, what we call up their pikes, you can then run your pike units forward. But if you keep the pikes down, you can only walk forward. So as you see, I've upped my pikes and are now chasing the archers off the battlefield there. If you look at the dead on the battlefield here, you can see that over on the right flank there, where that fierce battle was happening there, you can see there's a lot of dead there. And over on our left flank here, which kind of the centre units moved to as well, you can see there's a heck of a lot of dead on the battlefield as well. And bearing in mind this is only a 3v3 battle, I think you'd agree that there's a heck of a lot of dead on the battlefield there. As I say, now my units are just chasing down the last of the archer units. Here's a little close-up battle of my Carthage Sacred Band with their pikes up. So they're now fighting sword with just swords against this urban unit here. I wouldn't necessarily advise people to do this, because urbans probably would beat Sacred Band in a sword against sword battle. But as basically the battle seems to be over there, I thought I'd probably just do that, as I could bring reinforcements over any time. But as you can see, that's the end of the battle there, and I think it was a great battle for you to watch, and hope you enjoyed it. The first thing I'd like to say is really well played to everybody in the game. Especially I thought Armenia. I thought it was really great to see a faction that is very rarely used on the 31k battlefield. And I thought it was great to see how well it could perform on the 31k battlefield with a good experienced RTW general. Got very good kills, and I thought the overall performance of Armenia was very good there, bearing in mind that they were up against the elite Roman armies. So really well played. And I thought all the enemy team played extremely well there. Really well played to them, and really well played to Steve and Killer B as well. I thought they played extremely well, and especially Killer, who I thought supported my flank and rear, stopping attacks coming in onto my pike units there. Really well done to Killer. Steve had a really tough battle over on that right flank there, and he did extremely well and held very well as well. I just thought we'd have a look at the the battle statistics here, just something a bit different. If you look at the casualties that each of my pike units had, and the casualty units that they caused as well, you can see that a lot of my pike units did quite well in that battle, in the kill rate there. So I was quite pleased with that old army. If you notice here, can you see that that Greek pilot there? He's in the Greek flying corps, and obviously he's still flying around the battlefield, still looking to carry on fighting from the air. This is Spartan Commander saying, hope you enjoyed the battle, look forward to seeing you soon, and bye for now.